So there I was, Jake Donovan, standing in the faculty lounge of the Galactic Defense Academy, wondering if my career decision to leave Earth had been a massive mistake. And by massive, I mean colossal. Galactic. You get the idea. The lounge looked like someone had decorated a spaceship with IKEA furniture. If IKEA was run by aliens who had only heard about chairs through third-hand descriptions. I was nursing something that claimed to be coffee but tasted like disappointment mixed with motor oil. When he walked in, Commander Thralkesh, Zentarii. 7 feet of purple-scaled ego wrapped in enough metals to set off a metal detector from orbit. He had that walk. You know the one. That strut that says, "I am very important, and you should definitely know who I am." His species looked like someone had combined a velociraptor with a peacock and given it an superiority complex. He announced to the room, because apparently Zentarii don't just talk, they announce. The human instructor. How quaint that the Academy has decided to embrace diversity hiring. I smiled. That smile, the one my ex-girlfriend used to say meant I was about to do something stupid. Jake Donovan. Tactical combat instruction. Pleased to meet you too. Yes, I reviewed your curriculum proposal. Thralkesh made a sound that I think was supposed to be a laugh but came out like a drain clearing. Knife combat. How delightfully primitive. Tell me, do you also teach your students to throw rocks and grunt at each other? Around the lounge, other instructors looked up. A Phylixian with too many eyes pretended not to stare. A gelatinous quarian vibrated in what might have been second-hand embarrassment. Actually, I said, taking another sip of the terrible coffee, the grunting is week 3. Week 4 is the rock throwing. We build up to it. Thralkesh's crest flared. Apparently, sarcasm didn't translate perfectly into Zentarii. Humanity was admitted to the galactic community barely 2 centuries ago, and already you presume to teach combat to species who have been perfecting warfare for millennia. We Zentarii mastered plasma weaponry when your ancestors were still discovering fire. And yet, I set down my mug. Here we both are. Funny how that worked out. His eyes, all 3 of them, narrowed. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. Let us see if your primitive methods have any place in modern warfare. A friendly competition, human to Zentarii. Your knives against actual combat technique. The room had gone quiet. Even the quarian had stopped vibrating. You want to bet on it? I asked. Loser teaches the winner's curriculum for a full semester, Thralkesh said. His crest now fully extended in what I was learning meant he was very pleased with himself. Unless, of course, you wish to withdraw your laughably outdated course offering now and save yourself the embarrassment. I should have walked away. Should have been the bigger person. Should have remembered literally any lesson. About humility my mother tried to teach me. Instead, I extended my hand. You've got yourself a deal, Commander. Looking forward to showing you just how primitive humans can be. He stared at my hand like I'd offered him a dead fish, then clasped it briefly. His grip was strong. Mine was stronger. As he strutted out of the lounge, trailing junior instructors like particularly pompous ducklings, the Phylixian instructor sidled up to me. That was perhaps unwise, she said softly. Yeah, I agreed, finishing the terrible coffee because at this point, why not? But it's going to be hilarious. The next morning, I found myself in Lecture Hall 7, which the Academy apparently designed for maximum intimidation. Holographic displays floated everywhere, showing every major battle in galactic history. Spoiler alert, humans weren't in any of them. We were the new kids, and the decor made sure we knew it. Thralkesh had requested this venue for what he called a civilized discussion on combat doctrine. What he meant was, watch me dunk on the primitive human in front of everyone. The room filled up fast. Word spreads quickly when there's potential for interdepartmental drama. I spotted instructors from at least 15 different species, all eager to watch the show. Nothing brings people together like schadenfreude, apparently. It's a universal constant. Let us begin, Thralkesh announced, because again, Zentarii don't just start things, they begin them, dramatically. Modern warfare is defined by 3 principles: range, precision, and technological superiority. We engage enemies from orbit when possible, from cover when necessary, and never, ever, within arm's reach. He activated a hologram showing Zentarii soldiers in action. Energy shields shimmered, plasma bolts flew. Everything looked very impressive and expensive. This is evolved combat. We have transcended the need for crude physical confrontation. Neat, I said, because I'm professionally good at being unhelpful. Now show the part where someone hacks your shields or hits you with an EMP. His crest flattened, not pleased. Then, Such scenarios are statistically irrelevant in modern warfare. Murphy's Law is also statistically irrelevant until it isn't. I stood up, walking to the front. Here's the thing about human combat doctrine. We assume everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Usually at the worst possible moment, usually on a Thursday. Paranoid superstition, Thralkesh scoffed. Practical experience, I corrected. Humans have been fighting each other for our entire existence. We've tried every weapon, every tactic, every possible way to make the other guy stop moving. And you know what we learned? Never throw away a tool just because you found a better one. A voice piped up from the audience. High-pitched, chitin-clicking. But surely energy weapons are objectively superior to metal blades. I looked over. Small, insectoid, 4 arms, compound eyes reflecting every light in the room. The species name was something unpronounceable, but their nameplate read, Pip. Are they? I asked. What's the failure rate on a knife? Pip's antennae twitched, thinking. I do not understand the question. Exactly. A knife doesn't run out of batteries, doesn't need calibration. Won't glitch when someone microwaves popcorn too close to your equipment locker. You can get it wet, drop it in mud, and use it to open your rations when you're not stabbing things with it. A reptilian officer in the back, Lieutenant Vorn, raised a clawed hand. This seems to advocate for primitive conditions. Modern militaries maintain their equipment. Sure they do, I agreed. Right up until the supply chain breaks, or you're 3 weeks behind enemy lines, or some genius engineer decided to use the same frequency for weapons and door locks. Then what? You going to throw your plasma rifle at them and hope for the best? Thralkesh's crest was doing something complicated. You are describing worst-case scenarios that rarely occur. Commander, I'm describing Tuesday. I pulled out a training knife from my belt. Dull edge, weighted properly, entirely unimpressive. This is 7 inches of steel. Your great-great-grandfather would understand exactly how it works. So would mine. So would his great-great-grandfather. That's the point. It's technology-independent warfare. Barbaric, Thralkesh said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Reliable, I countered. Look, I'm not saying plasma rifles aren't great. They are. I'm saying the species that brings both a plasma rifle and a knife to the fight is the one walking away. Pip's antennae were vibrating now, excited. So humans train with both? Humans train with everything. We've got a saying, if it works, it's not stupid. We'll use rocks, sticks, harsh language, whatever gets the job done. We're not proud. You should be ashamed, Thralkesh interjected. Probably, I admitted, but we'll be ashamed and alive, which beats the alternative. The commander drew himself up to full height, which was still taller than me, annoyingly. Very well, Instructor Donovan. Let us make this official. 2 weeks from today, we each demonstrate our combat doctrine. The faculty will judge which has merit. When I win, you will spend the next semester teaching proper Zentarii tactical theory, instead of your primitive knife-waving exercises. And when I win, I said, matching his energy, you sit in on every single one of my classes, front row, taking notes. His crest flared fully, caught between anger and anticipation. Agreed. We shook hands again. His grip was tighter this time, trying to intimidate me. I just smiled. As everyone filed out, Pip scuttled up to me, all 4 arms gesturing excitedly. Instructor Donovan, may I enroll in your course? Even before the demonstration? Sure, Pip. Fair warning, though, it's going to be hard work. I have 4 arms, Pip said proudly. I can hold many knives. I paused. You know what? That's actually terrifying. You're going to do great. Day 1 of knife combat training looked less like a military course and more like a disaster relief effort. I had 12 students. Pip, enthusiastically vibrating in the front row with all 4 arms ready. Lieutenant Vorn, who'd apparently enrolled just to prove me wrong. A furry Kondraxian named Floof, which was not her real name but definitely what I was calling her. A couple of Tellurians who looked like walking crystals and probably shouldn't have been anywhere near physical combat, and several others who'd signed up thinking this would be an easy credit. They were about to learn otherwise. All right, everyone, grab a training knife from the rack, I announced. They're weighted, dulled, and certified safe by Academy standards, which means they'll still hurt if you're stupid with them. Watching aliens pick up knives for the first time was educational. Pip grabbed 4 knives immediately, 1 in each hand, like some kind of arthropod assassin. Vorn held his like it might explode. Floof sniffed hers suspiciously. Okay, first lesson, I said. A knife is a tool. It doesn't care about your feelings, your species, or your political opinions. It exists to cut things. Respect it, or it'll teach you to respect it the hard way. How do we hold it properly? Asked one of the Tellurians, their crystalline fingers clicking against the handle. However, feels natural for your physiology, I said. Humans typically use one of 4 grips depending on the situation, but you all have different hands, claws, appendages, whatever. Figure out what works for you. Pip, stop twirling all 4 knives like you're in a musical. You're going to stab yourself. But it looks very cool, Pip protested. It looks very cool until you lose an antenna. Then it looks very stupid. Over by the wall, I noticed Thralkesh watching from the observation deck with several other instructors. His crest was doing that smug thing again. Watching me herd alien cats with knives was probably his new favorite entertainment. Lieutenant Vorn, I called out. You're holding that like it's a dead rodent. Grip it like you mean it. The reptilian's claws flexed around the handle. This seems unnecessarily violent for training. Wait until week 3 when we do the grunting exercises, I deadpanned. Now, everyone, basic concept. A knife fight is not like the movies. It's fast, it's brutal, and statistically everyone involved is getting cut. Your goal isn't to look cool. Your goal is to make the other guy stop being a problem before you stop being alive. Floof raised a paw. This seems psychologically unhealthy. Welcome to human combat philosophy. We're all a little traumatized, but we're very good at sharing. Now, basic stance. Stay mobile. Stay low. Protect your vitals. What followed was 45 minutes of aliens trying to understand why humans fight the way we do. The Tellurians kept trying to be elegant. Vorn kept trying to maintain proper military posture. Floof kept trying to use techniques from her species' ceremonial combat traditions. Stop! Stop! Everyone stop! I called out. You're all thinking too much. This isn't about honor or tradition or looking good for the cameras. This is about survival. When everything else fails, when your shields are down and your plasma rifle is a paperweight, you need to be willing to do whatever it takes to go home. Pip's antennae drooped. That is rather depressing, Instructor Donovan. Yeah, well, combat's not a field trip to the ice cream planet, I said. But here's the thing. If you train for the worst possible scenario, everything else is easier. You're not learning to be barbarians. You're learning to be survivors. Something clicked. I could see it in their various eyes, sensors, and ocular appendages. Again, I said. And this time, stop trying to be pretty. Humans aren't pretty fighters. We're effective ones. By day 5, things had gotten interesting. Pip had figured out that 4 arms meant quadruple the attack angles. Terrifying. Vorn had stopped treating the knife like a ceremonial object and started treating it like a weapon. Even more terrifying. Floof had discovered that her species' natural agility combined with close-quarters combat made her an absolute nightmare in confined spaces. The Tellurians had dropped the course. Some species just aren't built for physical combat, and that's okay. You're actually getting good at this, I told the class during a water break, which means Thralkesh is probably having an existential crisis up there in his observation box. I waved at the window. He didn't wave back. His crest was completely flat. Instructor, Pip asked, why do humans still practice this if you have advanced weapons too? Because Pip, humans learned a long time ago that technology is awesome, right up until it isn't. We had empires fall because they forgot how to fight. Without their fancy tools, we're not making that mistake again. Vorn was doing practice drills, his movements getting sharper each day. The commander thinks this is beneath modern warriors. The commander thinks a lot of things, I said. In 2 days, we get to show him why he's wrong. That going to be a problem for you, Lieutenant? Vorn's reptilian features pulled into what might have been a smile. Might have been a threat display. Hard to tell. No, Instructor. No problem at all. As they ran through drills, I couldn't help but notice more observers in the viewing area. Word was spreading. The humans' primitive combat course was producing students who moved with a confidence the advanced weapons courses didn't teach. Thralkesh was still watching, still judging, still certain he was going to win. I smiled. That smile again. 2 more days. Part 4. The Demonstration Challenge. Demonstration day arrived with half the academy crammed into the main combat arena. Apparently everyone wanted to watch either my vindication or my humiliation. I wasn't picky about which, as long as it was entertaining. Thralkesh went first, naturally. He'd brought his advanced combat students, all decked out in the latest Zentarii military tech. Energy shields hummed, plasma rifles gleamed. They looked like they'd stepped out of a recruitment poster. "Observe," Thralkesh announced to the crowd. "The pinnacle of evolved warfare." His team ran through their demonstration. Coordinated plasma fire from distance, overlapping shield coverage, tactical positioning that maximized technology and minimized exposure. It was impressive. I'll give him that. Efficient, clean, professional. The crowd applauded politely. Several instructors nodded approvingly. "Your turn, human," Thralkesh said, his crest fully extended in smug satisfaction. I walked to the center of the arena with my students. Pip, Vorn, Floof, and 3 others. No fancy armor, no energy shields. Just training knives and an imminent attitude problem. "Thanks, Commander. That was very pretty," I said. "Now let me show you what happens when pretty meets practical." I activated the combat simulator. Standard close quarters scenario. Urban environment, multiple hostiles, limited sightlines. Then I added my special modification. The simulation started. Thralkesh's team moved in, shields up, plasma rifles ready. They rounded a corner where my team was waiting, and every energy weapon died. Every shield flickered out. The EMP I'd programmed into the scenario hit like a digital hammer. Thralkesh's students froze, suddenly holding very expensive paperweights. My students didn't freeze. Pip came from above, 4 knives flashing. Vorn moved low and fast. Floof was a blur of fur and fury. Within 15 seconds, Thralkesh's advanced students were registered as eliminated by the simulator. The arena went silent. "Reset," I called out. "Run it again." We ran it 5 more times. 5 different scenarios. Equipment, malfunction. Supply line cut. Communications jammed. Weapons stolen. Each time, my students adapted. Each time, Thralkesh's students were eliminated when their technology failed them. The last scenario was the clincher. I programmed a simple ambush, close quarters, no warning, no time to activate shields. Thralkesh's team tried to retreat, create distance, get their weapons online. Standard doctrine. My team closed the gap in seconds, training knives to throats. Simulation over. I looked up at Thralkesh. His crest had completely flattened against his skull. The universal sign of a Zentarii having a very bad day. "The thing about evolving past close combat, Commander," I said to the silent arena, "is you also evolve past knowing how to survive it." The crowd erupted. Not all in my favor, mind you. Some instructors looked horrified. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked scared. Pip waved all 4 knives triumphantly. "We are primitive. It is excellent." I really needed to work on their battle cries, but looking at Thralkesh's face, at the other instructors' expressions, at the students who just watched technology fail catastrophically in 6 different ways, yeah, point made. The arena was still buzzing when I walked back to center stage. Time to drive the point home. "Here's what you just watched," I said, projecting my voice to the crowd. "You watch students with simple tools beat students with advanced technology, and I know what you're thinking. That's not fair. I rigged the scenarios." Thralkesh's crest twitched, caught between arguing and admitting I was right. But here's the thing. Murphy's Law doesn't care about fair. Equipment fails. Batteries die. Someone jams your frequency. And suddenly, your evolved warfare becomes a very expensive way to lose a fight. I held up a training knife. We're not primitive because we use knives. We're terrifying because we never stopped. Humans didn't abandon spears when we invented guns. We put bayonets on the guns. We didn't forget hand-to-hand combat when we built tanks. We taught tank crews how to fight without their tanks. Lieutenant Vorn spoke up from behind me. "Because you assume everything will fail. Because we know everything eventually fails," I corrected. "Human history is just one long lesson in Murphy's Law. Every empire that forgot how to fight dirty collapsed the moment their advantage disappeared. We're not making that mistake." The Felixian instructor from the lounge raised several appendages. "So humans simply never evolve past violence. We evolve our violence," I said. "Big difference. We add new methods without discarding old ones. Plasma rifle, knife, harsh language, and improvised explosives. Whatever works." Thralkesh finally found his voice. "This is madness." "This is why humanity survived long enough to join your galactic community," I countered. "We're the species that looked at every disaster, every defeat, every technology failure, and said, okay, what's plan B? Then we made plans C through Z just in case." The arena had gone quiet again, thoughtful quiet this time. "Every species here has some ancient warrior tradition you abandoned when you got advanced weapons," I continued. "That's fine. That's your choice. But when your shields fail and your enemy is 3 feet away with bad intentions, You're going to wish your ancestors had been a little more paranoid. Pip's antennae vibrated excitedly. We are learning productive paranoia. Exactly, Pip. Productive paranoia. I looked directly at Thralkesh. So, Commander, still think knives are primitive? Or are you ready to admit that maybe, just maybe, the species that never stopped preparing for the worst might know something about survival? His crest did something complicated. Pride fighting with pragmatism. Finally, slowly, it lowered in what I'd learned was a Zentarii gesture of respect. Perhaps, he said carefully, there is merit in your methods after all. Front row. Commander, I reminded him with a grin. You've got classes to attend. The next morning, I arrived at my classroom to find it packed. Standing room only. Students from every department crammed in, sitting on floors, hanging from the ceiling supports, whatever worked for their physiology. And there, front row center, sat Commander Thralkesh. No entourage, no medals, just a datapad, and what I was pretty sure was a Zentarii expression of resigned dignity. Commander. I nodded. Glad you could make it. I am a Zentarii of my word, he said stiffly, though I questioned the ergonomics of these chairs. Yeah, they're terrible. Welcome to my world. I turned to address the overcrowded room. Okay, folks, before we start, I need to know, did everyone actually enroll, or are half of you just here for the show? A forest of appendages, tentacles, and limbs went up. The enrollment system hadn't crashed. It had been murdered. Great. Fantastic. I'm going to need to order more training knives. Does Galactic Amazon deliver to this sector? Pip, now sitting in the second row to make room for Thralkesh, waved all 4 arms. Instructor Donovan, I have been practicing. I can now juggle 6 knives. That's either impressive or a catastrophic safety violation. We'll discuss it later. I pulled out my tablet, scrolling through the new enrollment numbers. 300% increase. Every species represented. Even some faculty members had signed up. This is unprecedented, Thralkesh muttered, making notes on his datapad. Yeah, well, nothing motivates enrollment like watching someone's worldview explode in real time, I said. No offense, Commander. Some taken, he replied, but his crest did that thing that might have been amusement. Though I admit, your demonstration was enlightening, in a deeply uncomfortable way. Floof called out from somewhere in the back. Will we learn the grunting this week? That's week 3, and I was joking about the grunting. Disappointing, several voices chorused. I looked out at the packed classroom. Aliens from dozens of species, all eager to learn what they'd previously considered primitive. All because someone had shown them that evolution doesn't mean abandoning the fundamentals. All right, listen up, I said. You're here because you watched technology fail and realized maybe, just maybe, it's worth knowing how to fight when the universe decides to mess with your gear. That's smart. That's survival thinking. But understand this. I'm not teaching you to be humans. I'm teaching you to think like humans when everything goes wrong. Which is constantly, Vorn added helpfully. Which is constantly, I agreed. Now, everyone grab a training knife. Pip, just 4 knives, please, for the love of all that's holy. Commander, yes, that includes you. Thralkesh stood, walked to the equipment rack with as much dignity as a 7-foot purple raptor could muster, and selected a training knife. He held it, awkwardly, like it might judge him. How's it feel, Commander? I asked. He examined the simple blade, turning it over in his claws. Primitive. And? A long pause. Then, quietly, reliable. I grinned. Now you're learning. Welcome to the class, everyone. Let's talk about why your ancestors had claws in the first place. As I started the lesson, watching a Zentarii commander and an enthusiastic 4-armed insectoid practice basic grips, alongside 100 other unlikely students, I couldn't help but think this was either the best or worst decision the Academy had ever made. Probably both. Definitely going to be hilarious. And somewhere in the faculty lounge, I knew instructors were having existential crises about their own curricula. Good. Everyone needs a little productive paranoia in their lives. Even if their ancestors forgot to pack any,